Hello, 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 sweet friends. Welcome to the late May. I'm coming in just under the wire here. Garden tour. And this is the garden that we call the farm. This is the fence that Dave built me. That was the first video I ever made, the fence that Love built. And we are in our second full gardening season. So today I'm going to invite you in and show you all the work that we've been doing. Okay, so it's pretty much magic hour here. The best time to do any filming in the garden. And I think we'll start in the very far corner over here. So I decided to build a squash bed, a winter squash bed in the back here, and grow it up a cattle panel arch made up of 3 cattle panels. One of the reasons I wanted to do this is because I wanted to build the soil up because we get a lot of flooding. And so I can use old chicken bedding and compost and build this up. So this is up, this is considerably high off. I would say easily 8 inches up, which you can't tell because we've laid in the wood chips. The problem is, which I didn't anticipate and pay attention to, is that we get very little sun back here. So I'm not sure if I'm going to have to rework this whole bed or not. But right now, everything's planted. More sun comes down here to this patch, so I think I will be okay. The idea was to have these guys grow up along the fence and go this way. There's one planted over here too. And then the ones in the front, the idea was to have grow up along this arch. And then underneath, I have some hollyhocks at the end. I have a flower planted at every end. I've got 2 summer squash that just came up, a bunch of beets and turnips, kohlrabi, and hopefully some cilantro, but it has been slow going on germination. So that's this back corner here. And then I've got 2 rows of celery. It's all different celery, some cutting celery, and then some pink celery. And I think that's of the most interest, is this beautiful pink celery. This is more celery than we probably need. It will probably easily last me the year. My plan is to pick it as it grows. So kind of like a cut and come again situation. In this celery row, because this is sort of the backup celery, there is some peppers, there's sage, more peppers, and I'll just keep adding into that row as needed. And then at the very end of these 2 rows, lupin. Really beautiful. Those were from the winter sowing jug. These are also from the winter sowing jug. These are the black button. And I think this guy's just about to bloom. That'll be really pretty. And then I put some alyssum down at the bottom. I did not grow the alyssum. Okay, so we're moving forward towards the front of the garden, and this is the first row of tomatoes on the cattle panel. And at the very end, I found my feverfew. I was wondering where in the world I put it. This is where I put it, and I put some kale that had been extra. And then I've got a little nasturtium that's finally starting to grow. I usually pop over a jar because I never am quite sure where I've planted them if I plant them directly. That's the only one that's come up so far. So in this row of tomatoes, you can see I have done onions as the interplanting. So we've got tomatoes and then onions. And then a little bit further down, you'll see I had done lettuce as an experiment to see if that would be a good mulch. And I have to say, this tomato is actually the healthiest looking one of them all. So that really seems to have worked. I'll probably need to harvest this lettuce in the morning. and then a little bit of arugula down here. I forgot to move my shovel, but here I have some lemon verbena, and I'm hoping that that will kind of grow in and fill this space. I have snapdragons and white yarrow that will hopefully spread as well. And then you'll see a bunch of these today. This is the Tong Ho Big Leaf. The entire thing is edible. This is in the chrysanthemum family. And then we have broad beans. Lots of broad beans. I don't have any pods yet, but you can see the beautiful flowers, and there are a ton of aphids. The aphids like the new growth. So you can see right there, you can pinch that off. I don't, at the moment, have any ladybugs. So we have to decide if we want to try to do something about that, or if we're just going to let nature run its course. And at the end of this row, I have the orach spinach. I think it's orach. I looked it up. I think it's orach. And that is the only aisle that I don't have the only row that I don't have some flowers planted at the end. My thought is that will probably turn to flower. More of the Tong Ho, and it looks like we've got aphids on this one. Wherever you see those ants, it means you've got aphids. I'm just gonna kind of crush them for now. So I need my nasturtiums to start growing, because the nasturtiums will trap the aphids. And unfortunately, I just didn't have the timing right. This is a row of onions that's not doing particularly well, but they're okay. And then calendula and kale at the end here. So that is the first half of the garden. As you first walk in, that is what's to the right. Those rows are much shorter than the rows in the second half of the garden. There's also a really nice edging that I created, and I've just used odds and ends to make this. You can see like little bits of sticks and stones and rocks and things like that, but I'll give you a closer look on that. So about halfway down, these are planted with asparagus, and my thought was just to have the asparagus when you first walk into the garden, make really good use of this area. The asparagus grows really tall and wild when it, so like here, we're not picking this for a couple of years, and that's the asparagus that's now putting on these like fronds. I'm not exactly sure what you call them. And these grow really big and tall and wild. And I put in some straw flowers there, some apricot straw flowers. We've got a daisy, and then again, just an experiment was to put some salad greens down as a mulch to see how that would go, and it's going pretty well. So this is what the little asparagus looks like, and then it turns into that. And again, we won't be picking off of this for about 2 years, 2 more years. So I didn't plant anything else in here. It's just the asparagus, and then more straw flower, the Tong Ho Big Leaf, which I literally think this just happened today. The aphids. We were looking at this today. I was showing Dave, and they were not there. So I'm actually just going to come out with like a wet paper towel with some soap on it and just wash those leaves. Just see if I can control it that way. So we'll continue down. We'll walk through the whole edge of the garden, and then we'll come back to the last bit of rows. So I have some amaranth planted. This one's doing really well. More lettuce, some parsley. This is a cabbage. It's just a decoy cabbage to keep the cabbage moths just as far away from the row cover as possible. More straw flower. Now this is also the Tong Ho Big Leaf. You can see the leaves are completely different on this one. I actually think this is more what it's supposed to look like, but I'm not positive. This one does not look like it has aphids on it, which is great. The entire plant is edible. I've got radishes growing down here. You can see they're starting to look really beautiful. Purple radishes. Sage, more lettuce, leeks, more radish, sage, and this is more amaranth here. And then this is a valerian root. You know, if you get any tea that says like like a sleepy time, like a sleepy tea that's supposed to put you to sleep. It'll have valerian in it usually. And then more lettuce and sage. One of the trickiest things so far this year has been, what do I do about my strawberries? Because they're all being eaten, and this is the first year we're getting any strawberries. What do I do? So I've seen people put down like painted red rocks. James Pigurione, I can't say his last name. He does that. My sister told me to do that. I don't know. I went to the store and I bought some red flowers, and I wanted to get geraniums because I love red geraniums and I wanted them anyway, but it was $5 for one small red geranium, and it was $10 for an entire flat of these red salvias, I believe they are. It's not necessarily a flower that I would have just picked out and said, oh, I love this flower. I don't know what they'll look like. Maybe I'll end up loving them. But I'm going to plant them all along the border. I did get one geranium and I put it where the birds have eaten all the strawberries so far. I have no idea if this will be a distraction. I have no idea if this is just a waste of money. I did grow some red petunias hoping to do this very thing, but my red petunias just are not blooming and the strawberries are starting to ripen. So the timing was just completely off on that. So next year I'll plant it better. I'll grow some red flowers if this works. I mean, this may just be silly, but I'll show you a little bit more up close what's happening over here. But this bed is asparagus and strawberries. It's been working fabulous. This is the first year for it, so everything is going to look really tiny, but I anticipate next year the strawberries will completely take over this bed. The asparagus will be even larger, even though we won't pick it. And I'm just really thrilled with how this ended up working. Okay, I've got some thistle planted here too among the weeds. So you can see here are the strawberries. I also have some peas, snap peas. I've said in other videos that my shelling peas all got eaten by rabbits because they were planted in the boxes outside the fence. So I will have to do a fall crop of shelling peas, but we should be okay with snap peas, sugar snap peas. So this is the red flower, and I just dotted them down this walkway. So you can see there's a strawberry plant, and this one has a bunch of strawberries. And then you can see the asparagus right here, and then the flowers. So that's basically what I just did along here. And then we come to the back, and I have my grape plant, which hopefully is going to get big enough that I can get it to start training along the fence. I put a gooseberry here, but it's been completely eaten up by something. Luckily I have some backups. And then I just keep going along. I ran out of flowers, but I don't want to buy more until I see if it actually works. So the flowers just end here. And the asparagus also ends here. This was supposed to be the blueberry bed. Where I took out the blueberry plants, I put in tomatoes just for this year. And then we'll replace the blueberry plants. So you can see I have one dead one still in here. It just did nothing, unfortunately. But I will get those blueberry plants back. So I've got some tomatoes. This gooseberry is doing well. This is a ground cherry. We love ground cherries so much. And I'll pop in a few more tomatoes, probably, maybe some eggplant back here, I'm not quite sure. And then this is the one blueberry plant that did fabulously. So this is what they should look like. And I doubt we'll get blueberries this year. The only other blueberry plant that I have is this teeny tiny little one, and it hasn't flowered or anything, so you do need 2 blueberry plants. Oh, we've got poison ivy. I need to come spray that. We use like a vinegar soap water spray for the poison ivy. And I've got elderberry, a summer squash here, and then a potato bed, which then leads, well, I've got another elderberry. Again, you need 2 for pollination. And then it leads into a sweet potato bed that I recently put straw on. There's a couple straggler potatoes. This one is getting eaten by cucumber beetle. And just to warn you that cucumber beetles do like potatoes, and they will go to your potatoes. The cucumber beetles will go to whatever they can find that they like just as much. If you don't have your you know, cucumbers or melons planted yet. I gotta close this door because the chicken are coming in. And so they found my potato, and they have been laying eggs all over it. I've been taking the eggs off the leaves, or the actual take the leaves off and then throw the leaf to the chicken to eat. All right, so let me stand back and show you what we just saw. A row of brassicas that's covered with row covering. I haven't uncovered it yet, but it was planted after that row, so it's definitely not as big, but I will be taking that off to weed it. There's a bunch of flowers here, some thistle. There's 2 different kinds. I can't remember what they're called. They're not looking great at the moment, but I think they're gonna make it. I think they're gonna be okay. So in this row, there's cabbage and broccoli, and I think some kale. And then we've got snapdragons at the beginning of this row. This is gonna be really cool to see because I'm showing you now in May. Come July, when you walk down this row, you're just gonna be like enveloped with flowers, hopefully, if it works. All right, so moving along, we've got a bunch of different summer squashes all planted in here. Some are doing better than others. We've had wacky weather. And then we come to another tomato, cattle panel tomato row. And this one, I did the tomatoes all on one side, and then I've got onions on the other side. The next row, we have lupin at the end. And then this is the row that I did the eggplant and the carrots. The germination on the carrots was pretty bad. So I have reseeded, and I picked all the weeds out, left the carrots, and then I reseeded much more generously, and I actually put potting soil on the top just to give it something really soft that should hold moisture a little bit better. You can see there's spots where the carrots did really well, and then spots where they just didn't at all. So I've reseeded. I'm trying to keep that nice and moist, and we'll see. We'll definitely get more. I don't know if it'll be as many as I wanted, but. And then another decoy cabbage to keep the cabbage moths, some more of the eggplant, and then the rhubarb, which also we will not be picking until at least next year. We've got the geranium, and then this is the strawberry plant that the birds, I think it's the birds, have eaten all the red strawberries off of. So hopefully this geranium will offer some sort of decoy. Okay, so here we have a combination of more of those thistles. Again, I have to look up what the names of them are. I just can't remember what's like a globe thistle and something else. And then we've got some basil and another row of tomatoes, the final row of tomatoes. And then this is, so I've got a ton of basil just mixed in. This is sorrel, that's a perennial. The basil keeps going, keeps going. That's a chrysanthemum, I believe. More basil, more tomatoes. And then we've got carrots down here. So I had tried to do one row of carrots to go down through the peppers. The germination was okay. Like right here, it's really good. And then you can see like nothing came up there. I decided not to reseed it here, just let it be. We'll just be happy with what we have. And then another decoy cabbage. Looks like we've got a dill here, which I did not know. And then some turnips. And then we've got more pincushion. And this whole row is the brassicas. The final row is onions, fennel, lettuce, and parsley. It's doing okay. Lettuce is doing the best. A borage decided to self-seed, and I'm just taking the leaves and pulling them apart and laying them down for nutrition and mulch. So yeah, the onions are doing okay. They're doing all right. That one's flopped over because the hose keeps hitting it when I bring the hose back through here. The fennel looks really cute. I planted fennel too late last year, so this will be really nice to get some really big, beautiful fennel. And then parsley. And you can actually see where I planted the onions densely and I did not separate. They're actually the best looking onions. So I think there's something to that. And I probably will plant them in threes next year. So at the end of this row, there's hollyhock. And then at the end of this row, there's calendula and feverfew. So just for frame of reference, I'll stand back. So this is the center walkway. It's not actually centered, but this is how you get through each of the rows. And so that leaves us with just one more area. So the final area is the arch, which I just love, completely love. And it is growing peas, and it has all those beautiful lettuces that I showed you in the salad video: perpetual spinach, dancing tongue, lettuce, red leaf lettuce, chijimasai, just beautiful greens. Well, between aphids, cucumber beetles, potato beetles, and my chicken, I think I have the rest of the night cut out for me. So I will leave you here. I'm watching Mama Robin. She has a little nest in the sun porch, and she has pretty much taken over this garden as her own, and she comes in and she finds all the most amazing worms after I've watered. It's super sweet. So I am going to go take care of all those pests and round up my chicken. And I just wanted to thank you so much for being here, for all your support. This garden is a dream, an absolute dream of mine. And I will talk more in an upcoming video about some of the dreaming that Dave and I have been doing together. And I'd love to hear what you are dreaming of. So more to come. As always, thank you for being here. Appreciate you. Bye.